Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Actually, webinar for the month of October. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. At the moment, we have about 25 participants and we really appreciate you. We really appreciate the fact that you honored our invitation and you are quite timely. Thank you, thank you. We are so excited to have you here actually. So this webinar is coming from Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. It's a monthly webinar we normally hold for our customers and clients to intimate them on things that are happening in the capital market. So please thank you, Akim Oyewale. I can see you. Anu Adesoya. Thank you so much, Chinwe. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Obong. Thank you. We're so happy to have you here. Hilary, thank you. Godwin, Ibitola, thank you. Imadu, Joshua, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. So please, we'll just take like 3 more minutes and allow more participants to join the call. Please, just 3 more minutes to have more people join the call before we start in earnest. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Gbadebo Olatokunbo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gbadebo Olatokunbo. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
We will start shortly.
Okay. 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 47.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, so we are about to start. The first time I came up, we were just about 25 persons. Right now, we have up to 51 participants. So that's good enough for us to start. So once again, I would like to thank us and welcome us to our October webinar. Our October webinar, which is brought to you by Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. So this topic, handling wealth transfer issues and dividend retrieval, you know, it was carefully coined, you know, it's something that is so dear to the MD of Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. So we have been doing webinars like this, you know, in the past couple of years, you know, but this particular one, we just thought that, okay, our clients really need to know what they should do, especially when we talk about dividend retrieval, you know, wealth transfer issues and all of that. Most times you find out that it's something that affects people probably who have lost a loved one, you know, and then they're wondering what to do next. So that's why we are here today. And before I go further, my name is Udwak Ian, and I am the HR business partner for Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. So thank you so much for joining us on this discussion. So I also want to let us know that to do justice to this topic, because it's quite a broad topic for us. So to do justice to this topic, we have our in-house person in the person of Mr. Mayowa Bolujoko, and we also have two other very important, you know, guests. And who else would we call if not registrars? You know, when we are talking of dividend retrieval, your mind goes first to, oh, I must meet my registrars. We actually went and selected people who would do justice to the topic. So to give us, you know, a foresight on what we are talking about, like the first person to speak will be our in-house person. Mayowa is the current team lead in the research department of Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. So he's going to give us like an introduction into what we are talking about, and then, you know, make us comfortable. And we also want to implore you to relax and listen. Thank you very much. Mayowa, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope your day has been productive so far. And thank you for taking out some time to join us in today's webinar. Today, we'll be discussing wealth transfer and dividend retrieval. But for us to do justice to this topic, we would need to understand what wealth is all about. Wealth, according to Investopedia, measures the value of all the assets of what's owned by a person, community, company, or country. Whichever way you decide to look at wealth, we can simply define wealth as the sum total of accumulated savings and investments over time. Like I stated earlier in the previous slide, that there are two main principal sources of wealth: your savings over time and your investments over time. For example, a person who earns income, after covering for his living costs or living expenses, usually sets a portion of his income aside to be saved or invested. If he decides to go the way of savings, he's expected to earn interest on his savings. Whereas if he decides to go the way of investments, he has so many investment vehicles to put his money into, some of which include real estate, fixed income, alternative assets, digital assets. For example, if he decides to put his money into digital assets, let's say cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, his expectation is a positive price swing, which will increase his level of wealth. However, our focus today is a traditional investment instrument, which is shares. Basically, shares is simply the ownership interest in a company. And the reward for owning shares are several, but we decided to limit it to these two principal areas: dividend and price appreciation. Let me touch a little bit on price appreciation. Price appreciation is basically an increase in the value of an asset when compared to the initial amount invested. Let us come on a bit. In December last year, MTN had a public offer, and people who invested in that public offer paid 169 naira per share to own a share in MTN. As at yesterday, MTN traded for around 199 naira 80 kobo. The difference between the 169 naira the investor invested initially and the amount MTN is worth as at yesterday accounts for the price appreciation. That's about 13 naira 80 kobo. The other source of return for an investor, or let us say the reward for an investor, is dividend. And dividend is basically the portion of a company's profits that is set aside to compensate shareholders for the risk they took in investing in a company. Although people usually use the term dividend, but it is quite important for us to be contextual in the use of dividend. And hence, we will call dividend here potential dividend, because dividend could be claimed or unclaimed. What is unclaimed dividend? Unclaimed dividend is basically dividend that is outstanding, dividend that has been approved by the shareholders, but the investor is yet to receive the dividend. While claimed dividend is a portion of is the dividend that the shareholder has already received. Like we stated earlier, we said that the source of wealth involves savings and investments, and the traditional investment vehicle, shares, is a source of wealth to an investor. Of course, as the shares is a source of wealth to the investor, the return on the investment is also a source of wealth to the investor. Therefore, if an investor does not claim his dividend, it means that he has actually not claimed all of his wealth. That's why we refer to dividend, unclaimed dividends initially as a potential wealth for the investor. It is important at this juncture to talk to the reasons why people create wealth. And we have highlighted four principal reasons why people create wealth. The first is financial freedom. Next is for prestige purpose. And we also have future consumption. Probably they want to pay school fees in the future, or buy a home, or buy a car, or travel the world, travel the world. And finally, to bequeath to children. We intentionally put this reason in bold, because the aim or goal of most investors is to leave good legacies for their children. And an investor cannot be said to have successfully bequeathed all of his wealth, including his potential wealth, without claiming his dividend and handing it over to his children or succeeding generations. Hence, every dividend you leave unclaimed is an opportunity lost to save or invest to create further wealth. That's why you need to take action to reclaim your dividend, if not for yourself, for your future generation. We've actually talked a little about dividend as a source of wealth, and I'm sure what's going on through your mind is, why is dividend a problem? Well, these little statistics will help us establish the reason why unclaimed dividend is an issue. In the year 2017, according to data sourced from these two news platforms, The Guardian and Nairametrics, unclaimed dividend was around 100 billion in 2017. And as of 2021, it rose to as high as 180 billion, which is around 12.47% increase in unclaimed dividend. Well, this wealth is owned by, so this amount is actually owned by people who have not been able to pay their dividend, or who are ignorant of the fact that this is a potential wealth for them and their future generations. And unfortunately for these people, they might be thinking that this unclaimed dividend will be there forever. Meanwhile, a starting point in years to come, some of the value we see on the screen will become status badge. That means the investors will no longer be able to claim this dividend. And that's the reason why we need to take action right now. So for us, we believe that unclaimed dividend is a treasure, and this treasure needs to be unlocked. And for you to unlock this treasure, you actually need to know the reason why this treasure was locked in the first place. And that brings us to the reasons for unclaimed dividend. Although this display I have on the screen might not be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, it does justice to some of the reasons why we have unclaimed dividend. As highlighted on the screen, we have death of shareholders, ignorance, identity issue, other reasons, and unverified shares. I will leave you a few minutes to resonate on some of these reasons highlighted on the screen. Right now, I'm sure you have so many things bothering your mind or running through your mind, but do not panic. We have seasoned panelists who will do justice to all of your questions. So I would advise you to pen down your questions in anticipation of appropriate answers to those questions. Having discussed unclaimed dividend and why you need to take action, it's important for us to educate investors and the market and capital market in entirety about some of the strides taken by market participants and regulators to ensure that the unclaimed dividend is reduced drastically. And one of these efforts is the effort made by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the apex regulatory body for the capital markets in Nigeria. Let me just walk you through a few steps to confirm if you actually have unclaimed dividend or not. The first thing is to use this link highlighted here, or you go to SEF website. When you get to SEF website, you try to navigate through to the dividend search bar, the unclaimed dividend search bar. You put in your name or the name of your loved ones to ascertain if you have unclaimed dividend. And next, the next thing is for you to relax yourself and just put a call through to Apostle Stephen for advice. You could be sure we can handle all of your dividend retrieval requests. Other sources that you could actually confirm if you have unclaimed dividend include publications from companies and online posts by other companies also. For example, GTB has a list of shareholders who have unclaimed dividend. And also, Nestle usually run an online advert to inform investors about their unclaimed dividend. Now that we've talked about the concept of wealth, why ownership of shares is a source of wealth, and why returns on investment is also a source of wealth to an investor, it is now important to talk about wealth transfer. Basically, wealth transfer is the movement of wealth from one person to another. It could be from father to his children. It could be from related parties, probably companies to a subsidiary, and so on and so forth. But whichever way you try to look at wealth transfer, we have two major categories of wealth transfer. Wealth transfer could be done between living persons, which is usually referred to as nominal transfer, or between a dead person and its beneficiary, which is usually referred to as shares transmission. Our focus in this webinar basically is to talk about the deceased investor. Unfortunately, many people do not know that the wealth of their parents in shareholdings is a potential wealth for them, their children, and succeeding generations. And that's why we need to discuss this topic. Having established the fact that wealth transfer is the process of moving wealth from one person to another, or from one generation to the other, and we actually stated initially that our focus is on the deceased investor. Now, what is the process involved in transferring wealth from a deceased investor to a living person or a beneficiary? The first step is to ascertain if this investor has a valid will. That brings us to the fact that an investor can die either in two ways. Is either he dies intestate or he dies testate. If he dies intestate, it simply means that the investor died without a valid will. While if he dies testate, it simply means that the investor died with a valid will. Whichever way the investor died, it is very, very important. It is important for us to know that his wealth is the potential wealth for his children and intended beneficiary. And it can come in two forms. It can come in form of unclaimed dividends and in form of the sale of the shares, provided that the will allows for the sale of shares. As a continuation to the previous slide, we already stated that a person who dies without a valid will died intestate, and the person who died with a valid will died testate. So it brings us to the fact that a person who dies intestate, for another person or interested parties to have access to his estate and manage his estate, they need to approach the probate registry for a letter of administration. And this person who decides to approach the probate registry for a letter of administration is called an administrator. On the other hand, if an investor died with a valid will, he must have named the people that will execute his will. And these persons are called executors of the will. If an executor is named, the appropriate request to the probate registry is a letter of probate. At this juncture, it is very important for us to state clearly that the transfer of wealth is an intricate subject and prone to impersonation and identity fraud. Like we've heard in the past, some people falsified the death of their parents just to have access to their shareholdings and most likely their unclaimed dividend. Therefore, the issue of wealth transfer or share transmission has to be handled with due diligence and care. Before I walk you through the process of share transfer, a basic process of share transmission, it is important for us to identify an important aspect of transmission, which is the estate account. As a living person is a unique identity, a unique person. Also, a dead person is a unique person, and that is the essence of creating an estate account. An estate account is an account used to manage, that is created to manage the estate of a deceased person. And some of the reasons for creating this account is to prevent commingling. So the word commingling simply means that the administrators or executors of the will might decide to mix their own personal funds with that of the deceased person, and this might make accountability a bit difficult. Another reason why an estate account has to be created is to prevent arbitrary decision making by an executor or an administrator in the case you have several executors or administrators. Now that we already have a background of some of the basic concepts we need to understand about share transmission, I would like to walk you through the process of share transmission. This is a simplistic process just for you to have something to work with. Like I said initially, the first process in in taking charge or transmitting shares from a dead person to a living person is to identify if the person died testate or intestate. And if the person died intestate, a letter of administration is actually applied for. While if he died testate, a letter of probate is requested for. The probate registry gives a form called the bank certificates form. This bank certificate form contains all the assets of the investor. And one of the assets of the investor, like we said earlier, is shares. The family then approaches a broker like Atos Steven with the bank certificates. Atos Steven does its own due diligence and moves on to the registrar. A registrar is a company that manages the shareholdings of a particular company, the list of shareholders of a company. When a broker approaches the registrar, the registrar updates the form with the stock holdings of the deceased. The next process is to make necessary payments. After making all necessary payments, the probate registry issues a letter of administration or a letter of probate as appropriate. Afterwards, the administrators or executors present the letter to the bank for the conversion of deceased accounts into an estate account. I'm happy that we already touched on estate accounts. The broker does the remaining job by facilitating the transmission process, after which the shares are credited to the CS account and the unclaimed dividend are paid into the estate bank account. Like we already stated earlier, the importance of an estate account. Having laid a basic foundation for some of these, the process of share transmission and the importance of retrieving unclaimed dividend, it is important for us to talk to some of the testimonies we've had working with past clients. Here's one of our clients. Our husband happens to be an investor. He invested by buying in public offerings and also in the secondary market. Unfortunately for him, he didn't inform his immediate family, his wife and children, that he owned shares. Luckily for his widow, she stumbled upon a share certificate and reached out to a niece who works at Auto Steven Asset Management. And in the end, we were able to help reclaim a dividend worth 4.5 million naira and shares worth 16 million naira in 2019. Here's another story I would like you to resonate with. This is the story of Mr. Julius Anuma. Here's another story I would like you to resonate with as soon as we share the slides with. This is the story of Mr. Ikeji Godi. Having said all this and laid the basic foundation for our discussers to pick it up from, it is important to state clearly that there are three kinds of persons: people who wonder why things happen, people who make things happen, and people who watch or look why things happen. Right now, it doesn't cost you too much. It doesn't cost you too much to ascertain if you own shares or you have unclaimed dividend. It is better for you to take action for the sake of your future generation and your children, because, like I said earlier, if you do not claim claim your dividend, it becomes status bad. That means you forfeit those dividends at the appropriate time to the companies. Therefore, I implore you once more to take action in claiming your dividend, like I stated earlier. After you've ascertained if you have unclaimed dividend, you can actually reach out to us via our phone numbers displayed right on the screen, to inform us about what your need is, and you can be sure we'll attend to you appropriately. I hope I've been able to lay a basic foundation this afternoon for this topical issue in the Nigerian capital markets. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I have a question, please. Gbadebo Olatokunbo is the name.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. We would have a session for question and answer, sir. So you can put in your question in the chat box. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You can ask your question, sir.
Okay. The question is this. I already have a will, but I'm confused because I've stated some of the companies how I want to share them among my siblings. But I'm confused. Do I have to sign transfer form now while I'm alive, or what? It will be taken care of after I've gone? That's the question.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your question. So just as Mayowa stated initially while he was talking, you can send your questions through the chat box. So we are going to take the questions one after the other when our discussants must have, had their time to speak with us. Thank you so much. Your question will be treated, sir. And thank you for joining us, because I can see more persons have joined us. We're so grateful. We don't take this for granted. And also in the chat box, I saw that someone stated, rather it was a question actually, that will we get the slides? And yes, we shall make the slides available to you at the end of this presentation. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Mayowa, for kicking this ball, for starting this discussion for us. Thank you so much, we appreciate you. Okay, so this is a part where I need to introduce someone very important. So as at yesterday, when he told me that, Uduak, you have to do this, I think at some point I told him, sir, my network is bad, my network is breaking. It wasn't a lie though, but then I was like, oh, I wish you would skip it and say, okay, don't worry. But no ways, still said, no, you're going to do it. So the next person I'm going to introduce to us is a big person in the market, the capital market, with over 25 years experience. And he's very passionate about what he does. So he's very passionate about teaching you about the capital market, very passionate about giving you the steps on how to get what you want, And then this particular topic, so it's not like I've not been seeing him, participating in the preparation of a webinar, but this particular one, I mean, he was all out. So that's to tell us that we are not joking in Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. We have you, we have your interest at heart. So he's going to address us, and he will also do the honor, of introducing our well-seasoned professionals, to discuss this topic with us. So please, I would like you to join me in welcoming no other person but the MD of Atos Steven Asset Management Limited, in the person of Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe, to give us his own speech and also help us in, presenting our discussants for this webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Amolegbe.
Thank you very much, Uduak. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much, Uduak, for that kind introduction. Thank you so much, Mayowa, for the presentation. We at Atos Steven Asset Management are quite are glad that you could find time to join us. Everyone could find time to join us on this webinar today. I guess it is also a testimony to the way we also feel about the issue at hand. The issue regarding wealth transfer, the issue regarding unclaimed dividend. And my hope is that at the end of this process, at the end of this presentation, we will have been able to gain some useful knowledge as to how to handle those two issues. For us in Otto Stevens Asset Management, when we see the humongous amount of unclaimed dividend that is being declared by the regulators on a regular basis, what runs through our mind is that this is the result of some people's sweat, the result of hard work they have put in, wealth they have accumulated, and they are not able to have access to the earnings coming from that wealth. And of course, several discussions have gone on in various fora discussing the issue of unclaimed dividend, even up to governmental levels. Various suggestions have been made, various discussions have been had. I'm sure some of us have even heard of government's plan to actually take over the unclaimed dividend and create an unclaimed dividend trust and all of that. And we know that there have been moves to actually counter that, because we all know that more often than not, when government gets its hand on something, on wealth, that wealth might not come back to the owners. And so we are particularly concerned that, despite all the efforts by various market operatives, rather than for the quantum of unclaimed dividend to continue to come down, it is actually growing in geometrical proportion. And we feel as market operators that that's an industry threatening phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that just needs to be nipped in the bud either which way. Now we realize that we are not going to nip it in the bud just by the actions of one section of the market. Every player in this ecosystem will have to take an active role in ensuring that phenomenon of growing unclaimed dividend is nipped in the bud, i.e., we the stockbrokers have a role to play in it. You, the investors and the market participants, have a role to play. The regulators clearly have a role to play. Importantly, and very importantly, the registrars have a central role to play. So that is the reason why, despite the fact that, we had Mayowa set the stage for you by trying to explain what we're trying to do, we realized that the principal people that could help us in this process are really the registrars. And so it's really our pleasure to have the opportunity to bring to you today the chief executives of some of the biggest registrars in the country today. They will tell us how we got here. They will tell us what it is that the registrars are doing to help solve this problem, and they will tell us what else needs to be done. All right, to take us to where we need to be regarding reducing this issue of unclaimed dividend. Because you see, nobody wants to invest and not get the fruit of their investments. If you build a house and you rent it out, you do not want a situation where your tenant does not pay your rent, because it's your sweat. It's your sweat. You do not want to buy a bond or buy a treasury bill and not get the interest that you're supposed to get. So there's really no reason why people should also invest in shares and not get their dividend. And so it's really our pleasure and our privilege to have the two very senior people in the registrar sector to join us today. I won't speak too much because I'm also on your side regarding this issue. So I will yield the floor for them to talk to us. I hope that after addressing us, they will also do us the honor of taking some of our questions. So I'll first introduce them, then I'll yield to the first person, to the first of them to address us. So the first special guest we have is in the person of Mr. Obong Idiong. Obong is a very good friend of mine. When I called him to join us on this webinar, he did not hesitate at all. Someone is saying there's no audio. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, all right. So when I called Obong to join us for this webinar, he did not hesitate at all, and this came to me as no surprise, because I mean I've had cause to interact with him at various fora, and I know that his organization, African Prudential, particularly, have been very active in coming up with forward-looking solutions to this particular issue. So it's really a privilege to have Obong join us today. He's the managing director of African Prudential. I know a lot of us have shares for which African Prudential is a registrar. And incidentally, African Prudential is also a quoted company. So we've also had the opportunity to invest in that company and also collect dividend from African Prudential. So it's our pleasure to have you here today, Obong.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Our next guest is another senior person from another very large registrar department. Chinwe Olomo is a veteran in this business. I'm sure I've known Chinwe now for more than 15 years. So she knows everything that needs to be done to be known regarding this particular business. And I'm sure that she will also do justice to speaking to this particular issue. Thank you so much, Chinwe, for finding time to join us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
You are welcome. So let me cede the floor to the experts. I think what we will do is to have Obong deliver a short remark, then followed by Chinwe. Then I will join the two of them to take the question and answer session consequently. So over to you, Obong.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Omolebe. And I really want to commend Athol Stevens for organizing such a session. I think it's very, very educating, you know, to the investors. I see some comments in the chat, and also here I had the first investor that asked a question. And I think that is very important, because we, the participants in the market, the capital market plays a huge role in the Nigerian economy, and I think that it's left for all of us to solve the problem so that we can deepen this market. There's so much, you know, potential in the market, and I think we'll be speaking on some of those potentials. I really liked the presentation that Mayowa made. You know, it really covered a lot of aspects in terms of investments and what you need to know about shares and shares transmission. You know, there's a lot of wealth creation in the capital markets. Yes, there are a lot of other asset classes, as Mayowa showed us, but there's a lot of wealth creation in the asset market, in the capital markets. We had the example he gave of MTN, and there's so many other shares. We are also lucky to be listed as a business, as a company, Africa Prudential. We have today we have about 258,000 shareholders. We've got listed in 2013. In the last 8 years, we've been ranked number 3 in terms of dividend yield. So there's a lot in terms of value creation that can be had. And I like the topic. I like the fact that the topic is centered on the 180 billion unclaimed dividend, and is my hope that, you know, as we speak, we would explain what the reasons are, and would also provide solutions. Is one thing to talk about the reasons and the cost, but also, you know, preparing some solutions which we as Africa Prudential and also other registrars and even the brokers are trying to spearhead the efforts, of course, with the Securities and Exchange Commission, to try and solve some of these issues. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to engaging. Thank you very much to the other panelists. Thank you, Uduak, the moderator, and also want to thank the participants that have joined us today. hoping, you know, you'll get a lot of what you expected from the session, and also hoping that as we finish, you would go and buy your shares. Yes, you can hear there's 180 billion unclaimed dividend. It's definitely not bad, and I'll explain why there is that high amount of unclaimed dividend, and I'll explain why as an investor today you will not fall within those buckets. So looking forward to the session and discussions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Obong Ideong, for that brief introduction. And then please, I want us to send our questions, as we said earlier, send it through the chat box so that at the end of after both discussants must have, you know, finished talking to us, we can now take your questions. Please, let's do that. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mrs. Chinwe Olomo.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by commending Arthur Stephen Asset Management for organizing this webinar, and for the topic that we chose, or that was chosen by them, regarding the issues of wealth transfer and dividend retrieval. Is a topic that is also one that the market is looking at. And I know that the Securities and Exchange Commission also has done a lot, you know, to bring down the volume of unclaimed dividend in the market. You know, so my own belief is that after this section, we'll be able to address the issues that has risen, you know, to the volume of unclaimed dividend we actually have in the market, and we also provide solutions. You know, this is an educative section, especially for the brokers, to assist you in helping, you know, the beneficiaries of these dividends to know how to go about accessing the dividend, because in most cases they are lost about what to do, and sometimes they don't get the needed help to assist them to access the wealth, you know, that the benefactor has left behind for them. So I believe that this section will help to address those issues. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Obong and Chinwe, for those brief and very witty remarks that that you have presented. By way of question and answer, please permit me to kickstart that process. And you know, before we go to the floor for that question, from your data and from what you guys are seeing on the registrar side, what do you think accounts for the bulk of the unclaimed dividend, you know, that we have right now? Which category of investors will you say accounts for the bulk of the unclaimed dividend that we have outstanding in the country at the moment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Omolegbe. And I think that's a very, very good question to start with. First of all, you know, just a quick history. And so when we go through the history, we would understand, we get some more understanding as to why there's this prevalence of unclaimed dividend and which section it largely applies to. The Nigerian Stock Exchange started in 1960, where they had their first quoted company. Between then and today, I believe we have about 180 companies listed on the exchange. If you recall, back then there was so from 1960 to let's move back to 2015, where the Securities and Exchange Commission introduced the mandate of accounts through the EDMMS forms when accounts were meant to be mandated. Now what that meant was from 2015 onwards to today, as you invest and get shares in the as you invest as an investor and buy shares on any of the listed companies, you've mandated your account, your dividend goes paid and gets paid into your account. But from 1960 to 2015, what we had were dividend warrants. That means if some of you, the older ones would remember, or some of the younger ones on the call, remember your parents used to have some things that used to be sent to the post box or to your house, and things that looked like checks. And those were dividend warrants. And those were largely addresses and going to the addresses or the PO boxes. So the biggest problem that caused was a identity management problem, a KYC problem, right? We had, and there's a lot of layers of the know your customer. There are a lot of layers coming to the know your customer problem. We were now left in a market that had investors that did not have the addresses of investors, that did not have the bank account of investors, that did not have, full names of investors, correct names of investors, and the like, right? And this is what is. So the legacy issues today, as we speak in Africa Prudential, as that September, we paid 184 billion on dividend. And today, as we speak also, on the day dividend is declared, 95% of those dividends get paid. 95% of those dividend amounts get paid to the investors. But every year, as Mayowa showed on his chart, we continue to see an increase in the prevalence of unclaimed dividend. Why? Because we have a legacy issue. And that legacy issue comes from, there's still today a lot of certificates, that haven't been dematerialized. And, I think Mayowa talked very nicely about probates, the probates where people die intestate, people die testate, some people die, the family don't know the assets. I saw one of the testimonials that he showed. Families don't know where the assets are or what they had. We got a period in the market where people were buying. There was when there was the boom. When there was the boom in the stock market, people were buying shares with different names so they could get shares. There was so many multiplicity of names. Now, the problem the registrar faces now is you're paying people money. You need to confirm who you're paying the money to. And so before you pay them. And if you look at from CSCS data, there are only 7% of investors in the whole market that have KYC, complete KYC, 7% of investors, right? And so when we see a rise in the unclaimed dividend is because there's a legacy issue that we've been unable to solve. Legacy issue of people that have died, legacy issue of issue of people that are not even aware, legacy that they had, legacy issue of people that had so many names that they used to buy the shares. All those the Securities and Exchange Commission had given a window for them to rectify that. And the funny thing, there's this funny one too, where there are people that do not even bother to go and pick up their shares, because when you get is 5 now, they think it is so little. Depends on how much you invest. It depends on how much dividend the company, that people, the warrants might be 200 naira. And they say, why would I have to bother? And I think I will just stop now and let my co-panelists speak. But when we come back, I'm also going to talk about other things from integration in the market to interoperability and a few other aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So in summary, what you said, Obong, is that the bulk of the dividend unclaimed dividend we're sitting now or on now came from the advent of KYC, the advent of KYC in our markets. We used to have a market where someone can just come in that wants to open an account, they just fill a form, he does not need to provide any identity and all of that, and he just goes ahead and buy shares. And he can decide that, I'm just going to, I have 12 children. So I'm going to open an account for myself, my wife, and 12 children, 14 people. All right. Now, he now has to do KYC for all the 14 people, and he cannot. All right. So maybe he's only able to successfully do KYC for 2 people. So there are 12 people who he has bought shares for 20 years ago, who he has not been able to do KYC for, and the dividend of those guys are accumulating for the last 20 years. I'm still going to come back to you as to what your suggestion will be for us to resolve that problem. Chinwe, I'll put you on the spot briefly, and please just be as frank as possible with me on this regarding this question. Government has said if people don't come and collect their dividend, they are going to grab it. They will set up a dividend investment trust or something, and so that your money will not go to government. If the day you come and claim your dividend, you are going to have to go somewhere in Abuja or something to go and claim it, rather than go to Chinwe's office in Victoria Island. What is your own opinion about? Do you agree with that? And if you do not agree with that, what is the solution?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Honestly, I'll be very honest with you on that. I do not agree with that government proposition. I do not agree. What I think should be the solution is for even the registrars to set up a dividend reinvestment scheme. You do know that any money that goes into the hand of the government can never come out. So I suggest a dividend reinvestment scheme. We can manage it in-house. That is my suggestion. I do not agree with them.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will allow the floor to take a quick question. Then I would come back and try and round off my own set of questions consequently. So if you have questions, please indicate by raising. I can see Mr. Ochuku. Please kindly unmute from your side and ask your question briefly, sir. Mr. Ochuku.
Yeah, good afternoon all. Mr. Tatunde, thank you for this webinar. And I know, I belong to both sides. I belong both to the registrars and stockbroking community now. The question is this, for customers that bought in multiple names, I want the registrars to answer this, and they should be brief about it. Customers with multiple names, what are the steps that are needed to be taken by those customers? I have one presently. He changed his name from one name to another, and he's still having problem converting those shares to his name with some of the registrars. So I want them to tell us the registrar stands as per the Institute of Capital Market Registrar, their stand on how to go about claiming those shares and dividend. Thank you.
Okay. Obon, do you want to take that quickly?
Yes, that's very fine. And thanks, Mr. Chuku, for the question. I think it's very, very clear. I think SEC has already mandated all the registrars to open the window. And if you have multiple shares in multiple names, come with proof of the document and a proof of ownership of those shares. And then those things are going to be collapsed into one. You know, they've made a lot of announcements. They've extended the window severally. So I don't think I'll be surprised if there's any registrar that is not doing that. So doing that today, I think we're all doing it. We talk about it extensively in ICMR, our group meeting. So please should carry proof of ownership, go to the share. I also did that, and I have my shares today. You know, go with proof of what you bought in all the names, and then immediately you should be able to collapse it into one single account and claim.
What kind of proof? What kind of proof do people need to come with?
Well,
because I mean, if they brought it in a fictitious name, they will not have ID for that person, for that name. So what kind of proof will suffice?
Well, because we're talking about money, like you said, anybody can make any claim. You have to show all the instruments that you use to purchase. You have to show, if you have the share certificate, you need to come with it. You know, you need to come with, proof of the proof of the identifications that you can give. You know, but largely the instruments and the proof that you purchase.
I think at this point I need to say something, and I need to mention a particular registrar, Meristem registrars, to be precise. There's these customers of ours in the north who actually came with even proof, with even the transfer forms, application form he used in buying those shares, and they still turned it down. So I don't. If the Institute of Capital Market Registrars have agreed on a particular thing, I see no reason why somebody on the counter at the registrar's department would tell us that no, it is not done. And I want to ask another question. Does the registrar
Ochuko, if you don't mind, we have quite a lot of questions, and we want to give as many people as possible an opportunity. Uduak, can you please kindly take one or two questions that is posted on the chat box, so that you know, our guests can attempt them.
Okay, sir.
Hello, before you overrule, please. They are discussing an issue that is very, very, very important.
Absolutely, sir.
I am involved. I used him when I was young, that I got some time. So I have no record of them. So if you have to prove, my initial was TGO. I don't use the T again. I still maintain the GO. And I bought shares in T, Toibudin. If you ask me to prove, I don't have any evidence to prove. And they didn't capture my picture. And I bought this share for almost 30-something years. I don't have anything than the share certificate. So please, let them please explain to us how we go about this, because I have the issue at hand. I only thank God that it's about 2 stocks, 2 companies or 3, not in many. Thank you.
Okay. All right, sir, they will, I'm sure they will have, they will note it down. Chinwe, please kindly, while you are answering other questions, if you could kindly also take Papa's question along with that, so that we can put it together, so we can take as many questions as possible. So, Uduak, please just add 1 or 2 questions to that, so that Chinwe can take the 3 together.
Okay, so the first person who asked the question while Mayowa was speaking, Mr. Gbadebo Olatokunbo, so he said that I have a will, but do I have to sign transfer forms while I am alive, or it will be taken care of after I have gone? So that's his question. So please, let's just throw light and help him out with that question.
Okay, Chinwe, if you just take the 2 together, so the concern expressed by Papa, and then the question about someone who is concerned that, you know, what does he need to do now while he's still alive to be able to transfer his wealth?
All right, thank you very much. Good enough. The 2 questions I'm taking is coming from the same person. So basically, if you have a will and it's a valid will and it has been deposited at the probate registry of the High Court, it's been waxed, you know, there are certain requirements that needs to be done. You don't need to sign any transfer form, else you want to transfer the shares to your children while you're still alive. But if you have a valid will, you don't need to sign any transfer form. That document is sacrosanct. That is it for that question. Then secondly, on the issue of pseudonyms, I know that Mr. Idong has addressed it. A window was opened, which is still available at the moment for people to, you know, consolidate their shares that were bought in pseudonyms. Like he rightly said, that he bought those shares in his name. You know, there's a position for discretion. I don't know, but if those shares are in your name, even if you do not have anything, I believe maybe you have a certificate, or you have a dividend stop, or you even have a statement where you had claimed the dividends in the past. So that will serve as an evidence for us to assist you. There's a place for discretion. And we as registrar, we're willing as much as possible to assist. And that is one of the things we do. If you have such issue, I believe it could be regularized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those reply. And I actually appreciate your candor by mentioning the place of discretion. So, and that is what will differ one registrar from the other. So while one in a situation might require a registrar to give the benefit of the doubt, another registrar might not be willing to give the benefit of the doubt to that particular situation and require further evidence. So the onus really is still on the investor to convince the person that is sitting across you in the registrar's department that yes, you are the true owner of this of that dividend or that shares, as the case may be. Are there further questions, Uduak?
Yes, sir, there are a few other questions. Okay, so Mr. Ani Kanakman is asking, how best can a retired person invest in the market, taking into consideration of his age and constant flow of income to maintain his old age? And then another person also asked, so that maybe we can just take them quickly. With the advent of BVN and NIN, will it still be necessary to get bankers' endorsement to claim dividend?
Okay, I think I will let Obong help us with the second question while I will take the first question consequently. Obong, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, again, dealing with, in terms of the BVN and NIN, those are identity management systems that we need to check. And I think that for the bankers endorsement, there's a process that has been set up, because we also need bankers. There's a bankers confirmation that needs to be in place. There's a process that we currently run with NIBS and with NIBS. And the process still calls for the bankers endorsement or the bankers confirmation. There's also a lot of, one thing we also need to know, that there's fraud in the market, and we've seen instances where there has been claim on people's dividends, wrongful claims on people's dividends. And so, we also need to make sure that this person, that second check is to show that you're really the owner, you've had the account for some time, and the bank can attest to that fact. So we also are as registrars protecting the investor's assets. So there's some level of due diligence that we need to go through. So I think as it stands, yes, of course there are, and I totally understand that question. But as we continue to get more platforms or bring in more platforms in the market that we're able to verify, then I think that we can streamline that process of going through the banker's confirmation, where there's more interoperability, and then we have a single source of reliance and truth. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that answer. Regarding the first question, I presuppose that the questioner is relatively elderly person and is looking for where to put maybe their retirement nest egg, such that at least they are able to get a constant stream of income to be able to maintain themselves. What I will say is that regarding that, you of course will probably need to talk to an investment advisor within Dr. Stephen here to really look at your particular circumstances, your income requirements, and your risk preference and other issues. But from the little information you've given us, I figure that you are probably not at an age where you will be looking to expose your investments too much to the equities side, and probably be looking more towards the fixed income side, where you can at least maybe get some interest or some coupon coming to you on a regular basis. If you say you're elderly, that means that I will assume that your risk appetite will be limited. But then, I mean, I'm sure that you can get hold of the telephone numbers of our people and our email addresses. If you make an appointment, they will be able to sit with you and really look at your profile and advise you properly regarding that. Another question I would like to pose. Number one, from what we have said now, where this issue of unclaimed dividends started, are we saying that this is a problem that will be with us forever? It will never be solved. Please, I would like Obong and Chinwe to answer that question, because I mean, we have identified where the problem is, and it's, to a layman, it will appear as if it is a problem that will never be solved. And the second question will be that in solving this problem, or at least in accelerating the solving of the problem, what role do we think technology can play there? Because we know that at least technology has helped to alleviate a lot of intractable problems in the past. What is the role that we feel that technology can help in at least ameliorating these problems, if not solving it totally? Obon, go first, then followed by Chinwe.
Okay, thank you. I'll just try and address some layers of the problem. I think first we had Mayowa talk about the probate, and of course, for you to transmit your shares after you die, you have to go through a probate process, and I think Chinwe also alluded to that. And then if you look at the process, what's the convenience of going through the process is really, really cumbersome. It's really manual. You talk about technology, Mr. You talk about technology, sir, and the process is really, really cumbersome. Lagos State, there's a portal in Lagos State that tries to automate it to a certain extent, but it's very, very manual, and that takes years, and that's very, very discouraging to the investor. So that's one thing that would need to check. And then, of course, Mr. Amolegbe, there's a lot that technology has or can play in making sure that that process is more seamless. It can take years in some cases, getting the letter of administrating or getting the probate. There's also the issue of interoperability. One of the things we do, we talked about EDMMS, where you mandate your accounts, and one of the things is that again, what the registrars have done is we made those forms electronic, so it's easy at the comfort of your home on your phone. You just just fill those forms and send it on your desk. But the issue now is when those forms get to NIBS, there is no interconnectivity between the NIBS platform and the registrar's platform, and that also adds to the turnaround time. So these are little things that make investors shy away from wanting to come forward or thinking it's not worth their time. So we're engaging, the registrar community is engaging NIBS, and we're seeing what we can do to solve some of that. There's also an issue of interoperability, within the market, and as a whole, is a market issue, and I think that because if you come to me as Africa Prudential with your forms, with your documents, you now have to go with the same forms and documents, to the other registrar businesses, and I think that, and even with the broker, because also with the registrar and CICS, is what we get is what we input in our system. When the investor goes to meet the brokers with the details, we don't add or subtract any detail. Those details are sent to CSCS, the central depository, and those details are transferred to the registrars. That is what we work with. And so if there are gaps in the identity, if there are gaps in the KYC, then there will definitely be gaps in the register and in the records. So if there is that interoperability of each of these bodies where you fill in and it's clear, and again, you can't run away from the convenience. It has to be convenient for the investor, not filling on any forms as we've moved forward. And when they see that convenience, they're ready to put in all the details. Because even to today, yes, the problem has really reduced because of the mandates and all that. But there's still a lot more we can do. So I think that with the interoperability, with the integrations, I think with the digitalization of some of these processes, there will be a lot. It will be a lot better. And it's something you said, and you talked about the legacy. Can it ever solve totally? No, it can't, because there are people that died in 1970. There are people that died in 1980. There are people that died in 1990. We don't have their records. And so, like, again, as Mayowa showed, there are some records. So we always tell, go to the SEC portal. There's a link there. Look for it. Look for your parents. Look for your uncle. Look for your cousins. Look for anything and come and claim. But then again, you now think, is it worth it to come and claim? Do I have to go through that process to go and do a letter of administration? So it's just a market-wide, issue that we need to solve. And like you read, and I think it's something that we need to start looking at in terms of how we can apply technology, to solve this problem. And it's something at Africa Prudential, one of the things we're looking at and bringing out by first quarter of next year for the market.
Thank you very much. Chinwe.
Okay, just to add to what Mr. Idiong just said, I think that, like he did say, would this be solved totally? I would say not totally, given the times we're in. But I think that with all that he mentioned, all the you know, all of what the market has done, you know, the SEC with the EDMMS, the ICMR and all of that, I think that it will reduce over time, but not totally eradicated now. One other thing that I did like to say, like you mentioned, that it is the output from CSCS, from the stockbrokers that we work with. We don't add or subtract. So most times you even find out that people have wrong account number. People even impute wrong account number to retrieve their dividend. It becomes difficult. You understand? They impute wrong details. Okay, some people even give us their foreign accounts to pay dividends into, which is not possible. But basically, what I think that can help, you know, also is enlightenment. And this financial institution, people in the village, they buy stock. Some people invest in the village and they don't have access to technology. So those are the areas that we need to begin to look at. You know, more enlightenment, both from the brokers, from the registrars, from the market generally. That will help. That will help. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I mean, again, as a follow-on question, Chinwe, we have a lot of Nigerians, they bought shares, they've gone abroad. They don't have BVN, they don't have NIN. They bought shares, their dividend is being paid and they are not receiving it. And most of them are thinking, I mean, do I have to take a flight of 200 or 300 or whatever thousand in order to come and register for NIN or BVN so that I can get my dividend? I mean, that's the question I keep getting. What can you guys do in the registrar to help ameliorate that concern of cost-benefit analysis? You are saying now that I need an NIN, I need a BVN in order to be able to get my dividend. But I'm thinking the dividend is not that much for me to bear the cost of coming all the way from America or coming all the way from the US or coming all the way from the UK in order to come and do NIL or BVN in Nigeria. And obviously this is part of what is causing the accumulation of unclaimed dividend. Is there anything that can be done by the registrar to try and ameliorate that aspect of the contribution to the
reduction?
Unclaimed dividend? Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Please, madam, can I just add this, please? I'm sorry for interruption. I retired 15 years ago. When I was in the office, when I was at work, I managed to convince a lot of my colleagues to buy stock. Some of them, they are no more in the country. When all this innovation came up, they've left in America, everywhere. They were lost. They don't get dividend on their this. They will call me, then look as if, whoa, why did you set this trap for us? Please consider those ones too. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for that question. I think it is on, I mean, the answers, I mean, it's the same question that, okay, basically right now is a good thing I can tell you confidently that BVNs can be done abroad. You can do your BVN. But let me even say something for the historical legacy issues, like you mentioned, and even current, I'll give you the current position right now. Right now, for transactions that are consummated on the floor of the exchange, the registrars, ICMR through the registrar, we're currently adopting, for those information that are complete, we can actually adopt, the information from the CSCS. Upon confirmation that it's fine, we can adopt. Secondly,
what does that mean? It means the person does not need to fill e-dividends again.
Yeah, if the data, because we also have issue of the data being sent, we are still trying to fine tune it, but currently we do adopt some that are okay, that are perfect, because you find out that some of those data, some people still do not include their BVN, their bank details are missing, but for some that have, even if they put a call, they send a mail, we can make that verification and still treat. All right. But basically, for the issue of the dividend BVN, it has been solved. But where we have a problem is those legacy issues, those historical problems. We cannot do much if they don't come to mandate the accounts. With those historical cases, we cannot do much, especially when they are not available. But for the people that Mr. Olatokunbo mentioned, they can reach out to us. We always have a way to handle and solve some of these problems. We have a way to resolve them. We have data that we can make confirmation upon which to advise them on the best path to take to retrieve their dividends. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Chinwe. Mr. Sylvester, I saw your hand up. Are you still there? Mr. Sylvester? Okay, it's no more there. Okay, so in the absence of further questions, I think that we've done the list, the bits we can to try and address this issue. Of course, you know, like I mentioned, quite a lot has been said about this. I suspect that quite a lot will still be said, and I know that the registrars are doing their bits. So unfortunately, they seems to be the ones, and this is the reason why we decided to bring them. Actually, they seems to be the ones that are on the receiving end of all the public bashing all the time. So it is always good to give them an opportunity and a platform to actually let the public know what is going on. That they are not deliberately refusing to give people their money, because I mean that is the way people are putting it in layman's language. So I think this is good. So, well, I mean, let Mr. Wale Bugwade is a very good client, so I'll give him the privilege of asking the last question. So please make it brief, please.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you and the program you always give us. God bless you, sir. My question is, where you have filled the form for this your unclaimed dividend to be sent to your account, and you don't get anything, and you follow up, and the registrar said one thing or the other, and it keeps reoccurring that you are having unclaimed dividend. What do you then do? Okay, you have filled the unclaimed dividend form. You have filled the e-dividend form. Yes, sir. They have it in the system, and yes, yet sir, you still have a case of unclaimed dividend. Is that possible? Exactly. Okay, can you help us answer? And the registrar has not paid.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so you know, I wouldn't want to speak for other registrars. I want to say that I know that there are processes or there are issues that might happen. There might be, there might be issues that there might be mixed, similar names, mixed names. I know I've seen a few of these issues that have happened, but I think everybody that has filled their form, everybody that has filled their EDMLS form deserves or must be paid their dividend. I think that if there are any issues, maybe if someone is having an issue, then they can escalate it to the ICMR too, because there's also a path where you can escalate to the ICMR to see what's happening. But I think that apart from maybe some internal processing issues, that there might be delays. Sometimes there are about 30-something thousand forms. I talked about the interoperability with EDMMS. It is so, the process is very manual. So you might have registrars, imputers imputing these things manually, despite the fact that it's online, you send it back, because there is no API driven between NLIBS and us. There are too many forms sometimes, and that might also cause delay, or it's something that we are trying to clear up. And just to say something, Mr. Amole, if I will, so I'm just about the misconception about the registrars, sitting on unclaimed dividend on purpose. You in 2015, when the Securities and Exchange Commission had introduced the EDMMS forms, they also brought a rule whereby after 15 months, 19% of dividend is returned to the company, is returned to the listed company and the issuer. And so, there's this misconception that registrar sits on all these unclaimed dividends. It's not possible. In fact, what we even face is even trying to get out some of these funds to pay the people after the return of the money to even pay the investors that have come to ask, and I think that our institute is very, very clear in terms of meeting the customers' request and everything. So I think that unclaimed dividend is not sitting with us. If it's not sitting with the registrar business. It's back with the company, to the company that paid the business. So there's no incentive for us to pay. In fact, if you look at today, a lot of registrars today we have a colleague going to Sokoto to see there's a lot of campaign between the registrars with CSCS, registrars with SEC, and registrars amongst them, the companies, the listed companies, a lot of campaigns to create. We're doing radio jingles in Kano today. We're working with SEC in Kano. We're doing radio jingles. We have a client that there's a lot there, and these are the areas. There's a lot of, Maiwa talked about some companies actually listing it. Every corporate action AGM, the list is there. The list is also there with SEC. So we just want to encourage, investors to go and check. But for us also, I think the market, is all about the registrars, the brokers, CSCS, NIBs. We all have to sit down and look for a system where it's easy, and also the courts, it's easy for the investors to be able to claim, some of these and their rights to claim their returns. Thank you.
Okay, so to just emphasize what you've said, and I think it's very important. When a company pays money and it is unclaimed, after some time the money goes back to that company. It's not sitting with the registrar. I think it is important that the public knows that, so that at least that misconception. We try, if there's anything this webinar achieves for the sake of the registrar, I think that is important that we get that out there. All right. I have a few hands up. Okay. Gentlemen, Obong and Chinwe, I will ask that you please indulge us while we take maybe 2 out of the 4 hands I have up.
Sure.
Mr. Sylvester Abamba, I called you earlier, but it seems you were bumped out, so you are back now. Kindly make your question very brief, sir.
All right. And, thank you very much, Tunde, my president.
Yes. Thanks.
I want to say a big thank you, and also say hi to my sister Chinwe too. I have a few questions here. One, it is assumed that when you buy a stock and you're registered with the registrar, and you have multiple stocks, are you supposed to, each time you buy a stock, a new stock from the same registrar, are you supposed to complete e-dividend again? That is question one. Another one is this: like most of us, during the boom, we bought for our children and whatever. And incidentally, a child had about 3 names or thereabout 4 names. Then he's been receiving dividend. And you want to now convert those share certificates to the system. You've gone to CSCS that have been converted already. Now you get the registrar. Registrar say you should come and you should bring your grandfather or grandmother before such certificates could be converted. That's another one again. Then if you have a club now buys stock. You have signatories, about 2-3 signatories, and you have a bank account. You have about 2 signatories in the bank. The account is opened. Now you want to dematerialize your certificate to the CSCS. And besides, you want to get your dividend too. Your e-dividend, you will now put in the BVN of a signatory. What are we going to do? And that's saying that no, you have to bring BVN of such a company or such a club. And such a club don't have BVN. When we're opening this bank account, we used the signatories BVN to open the account. So please, I want you to just share my light into this. As a matter of fact, as a broker, sometimes we don't want to just walk into registrar because some of us are out of Lagos now and we're somewhere. If I were to be in Lagos, possibly I would have gone to meet my sister Chinwe, and she gets all this and sorted out for me. So these are my few questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, my president.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Sylvester. Obong, could you help us just summarize? I know you have answered some of these questions that Sylvester is asking, but if there's any that you feel that you need to, you can help throw a light on, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, just I think one or two. I didn't really get the last one on signatures, but I think that in terms of, I think the first one was about the you've already completed an EDMMS form and you want to dematerialize. I think the process is very, very clear. So I don't think where and you have multiple accounts, you say go and keep for every new account, you're still bringing new EDMMS form. I mean, you have. If it's the same person, is one BVN you have, even if you're looking at it from that angle, I think that the process is very, very clear in terms of you submit one form. On that form, you click all where you have shares within that registered business. You tick where you have shares within that registered business, and that mandate cuts across, and that mandate cuts across. So that's why the shares have a box where you can tick, it cuts across. I think there was a question you talked about this, that you come with for dematerialization, you come with the certificate. And I didn't really get that. And there's a, and I think the dematerialization, again, the process is very, very straightforward. And I think it's very, very clear, and I think even for a lot of the registrars almost have the same processes across for dematerialization. But I think I'll just yield for Solomon to answer some of those questions. I didn't get the last one on the BPN of signatories.
Okay. Okay. Chinwe, did you get some of those questions?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. Okay, let me just add something to what his answer, Mr. Young said on multiple accounts, as in you bought shares, you bought another time, and you have completed an dividend mandate form, and we had processed. I think the expectation is this: you bought shares in 2020 or even January 2022. And probably you bought Zenith shares. We manage Zenith shares. You also bought a Dangote sugar in September. You are not expected to complete another mandate form. What you're supposed to do is to write us that let us know that you made a new investment, because we're not going to, as registrars, keep checking, okay, where is Mr. Sylvester Bamba's account so that we can find out if he has bought new shares. No, you just send us a mail. A mail is enough. Notify us of your investment and we know what to do. We'll simply update that new account with your bank details. Then on this club issue and BVN, I'm really surprised. Honestly, I don't understand how that is, how that has come about. Because basically a club has no BVN. It is the signatories that has a BVN. What we ask for as registrars is that all of the signatories provide their BVN, okay, so that we can, include them on our associate BVN. We have it on the platform, so it's not for the club, but for the signatories to the accounts. So I think that is a misconception, or maybe there was a communication problem. I do not know, but that is not what we do as registrars. And I believe that if any person is practicing such, hearing this, they will, they will regularize. That's what I would say. And then on the issue of, buying shares for your children, you bought stuff for your children, you want to migrate the shares. I think the issue of migration starts with the registrars and not from the CSCS. So I think the only challenge you would have for stock bought for your children is if they are of age and they come to us to say they want to migrate. And then we check our records, we find out that we don't have their signature. Because prior to this period, we have been dealing with the parents who does everything on their behalf. All right. So if a child comes, we'll ask you to just get a letter from your dad. We have a form that addresses that. We call it minor takeover. Once a child becomes a majority, it is expected that the parents write out to say, if you are willing to let them start managing their investments in shares, you let us know. You do us a letter, and we'll tell you what needs to be done. Okay. Even we address issue even when the parent is deceased. So all of that is being taken care by registrars. I hope that answers your question, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. The very, very last question. I think this gentleman has been raising his hands for a while. It will be a disservice to not let him ask the question. Mr. MB Mai.
Thank you very much. And
Yes.
I think that is justice because I'm calling from Kaduna.
Oh, okay.
And while you're operating in Lagos, I think.
Yes, yes, please.
So I'm very grateful that AvriProt is around because honestly, dealing with them is a delight for me. Whatever problems that I have, whenever I write them a mail quickly, they will reply. Even if they are offline, there is a recorded message that will come. And the next day, the next working day, you will see a response. I honestly thank them very much. But my problem is there is one stockbroker called Nigerian Stockbrokers. I started dealing with them since they were under Nal Merchant Bank. Then later they were bought over by Sterling Bank. After that, I still think that they exist, but I don't know where they are. Because each time I open their website, the dialogue messages are not being answered and so on. And I have a lot of issues with them to deal with them because some of my children, I bought shares for them under their brokerage, but I can't get access to them now. So I don't know, is it my living in Kaduna that is making it so difficult for me to get these Nigerian stockbrokers, or they are still existing and I can have either their email or phone contact, please? Thank you.
Let me try and answer your question quickly.
Thank you.
The contacts, the contacts, that is telephone number, email addresses of all active stockbroking firms.
Yes.
Is on the website of the stock exchange or SEC.
Okay.
Right, their most current contact, because it's very possible that they have not been updating their website.
Okay.
So I think we've lost Mr. Amolegbe. So Udwak, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Obong. I think he's still there. Probably is the network that is fluctuating. So, but to answer Mr. MB Mai's question, I don't know if any other person, any of the registrars on board can quickly answer his questions, since that was what Mr. Amolegbe was doing.
I think it was directing him to the online. Good evening, Mr. Mai. I think it was, and thanks for the commentation. I think it was directing him online with the list of the registered and brokers that is on the SEC website, and also the contacts. What I want to say here is, and that might help Mr. Mai, so I know that we've had some of the participants, and they've made some complaints and everything, or some gaps that they're facing in terms of service. What can happen is that they can send some of these complaints. They can send it to you, Udwak, to the company, or to Stevens, and then you can share it with Chinwe and I, and we'll look for how to get in touch with our colleagues to see how we can support them in the issues they have. So it's not as if we're just brushing away some of their complaints. They might, I'm sure they're very real complaints. So they can again send it to, if you create something where, a platform where they can send it to Arthur Stevens, and then you can share it with Chiwa and I, and we just engage our colleagues that, that can help resolve the issues that have been raised. All the issues, please, all of them.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Mai. I hope we've helped you. Okay, so the MD is back.
Okay, I'm sorry, there was a little bit of technology issue there, but we're back. Well, I mean, I think that we've had a very exhaustive engagement today. Quite frankly, this was my expectation. My expectation was that it was not going to be more of a formal presentation, but more of an engagement. And you will, most of us will agree with me that this has been quite engaging. Our guests have been fantastic in tackling most of the questions we have head on, continue to be ongoing. But I think that we're lucky that we have such young and proactive people on top of the issue with us. So while we have agreed that it's not a problem that will ever go away totally, we know that we have people in the registrar's business that are attentive and that are cooperative, that will at least help to reduce the problem to the very minimum. On behalf of staff and management of Steven Asset Management, and on behalf of all the people that have had the benefit of joining this webinar today, I would like to say thank you very, very much to our special guest, Mr. Obong Gideon, Managing Director.
Technical come up for the meeting.
I have a request.
I wait for Madam.
PLC.
Are you set now? Yeah,
I have a request, sir, because I'm not hearing well now.
Versus call our questions. It's my hope that you will continue to engage like this on a continuous basis with the public on okay, well, Mr. Olatokunbo, we're actually rounding up this.
Yes,
rounding up now.
This is my first time of joining this
we've had
this type of meeting.
To get down to
I just want us to. I just want you to please keep him in mind.
Thank you so much.
Whenever you have any other,
finding time to join us. It's my hope that whenever we have cause to call you again, you will be you oblige us. Okay, so Mr. Olatokunbo, kindly put your email address in the chat box. If you have an email address and your telephone number, put it in the chat box now if you can. We will add you to our mailing list. We have a comprehensive mailing list. So whenever similar webinars, or we hold a webinar on different topics once a month. So if we have your email address, we will you will be able to get the notification of the webinar on your email whenever we're holding it. So if you just go ahead and do that, and anyone here too that is not already on our mailing list, that wants to be getting financial information, capital market information from us, please put your email address and your phone number on the chat box. We'll pick it up and we'll add you to our mailing list, and you'll start hearing from us. Again, I mean, thank you very much, Obong and Chinwe, for sparing the time you have spent. Thank you very much. I hope that we will be able to gain or benefit and knowledge at future engagements. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Udua?
Yes, sir.
All right, over to you to wrap up.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining our October edition of this webinar, and I'm sure we all enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Mr. Obong. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chinwe, and thank you so much, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe. So I forgot to tell you guys that Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe is the immediate past president of CIS. I'm saying that with so much pride. So know that we had someone who is seasoned to speak with us. And of course, thank you, Atos Steven Asset Management Limited. We are always doing this every month, bringing knowledge to our clients and customers. It's not just bring your money, but then we also want to keep you abreast on what is going on in the capital markets. So thank you everyone for joining us. So in the chat box, we also had details of our staffs. You can reach out to any one of us, or you walk into Atos Steven Management Limited and someone will attend to you. So if you have issues with your dividend retrieval, you walk in, you meet the head of business development in the person of Mrs. Perpetua Ikeoha. She is ever ready. When I say ever ready, I mean ever ready to give you the necessary help. She will break it down for you and then you will get what you want. So, and Mr. Mayowa is there and every other person at Atos Steven Asset Management Limited is always there to help you out. So thank you once again for your time, and it was really a pleasure having you on this call. So we'll meet again next month. Mr. Olatokunbo, yes, you will be notified when we're having meetings like this. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Thanks, Chima.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the webinar.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Very, very, very beautiful webinar.